everyone, Michelle Mays here. I am the founder of the Attachment Focused Betrayal Model and the Center for Relational Recovery. And I am back to talk to you today about the topic of disclosure. So here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how to prepare for betrayed partners, how to prepare for disclosure. We had a big discussion about this last night in our coaching call, and I noticed that partners keep showing up at our coaching program and asking the question, how do I prepare for the day of disclosure? So I want to give an overview of kind of the things that really ought to be part of the preparation and what we want to have happen on the day of disclosure. And let's just assume that everybody is working with a trained therapist. Everyone's doing disclosure right? Everybody's working with a trained therapist who's been trained in doing disclosures and has experience with doing disclosures. So you're not working with somebody who has never done disclosure, has never been trained in disclosure, okay? Disclosure is too important. You need somebody with some skill around it. So I'm gonna talk about the things that I think need to be in place for partners around this issue to prepare you for the day of disclosure. And for those who the word disclosure is new for, disclosure is when the cheating partner comes and makes a full disclosure. They're fully and completely honest about the scope and depth of the cheating. So everything that's gone on in the relationship around the breaking of the sexual agreements, okay? And it is a therapeutically facilitated process. So you don't do it at home. You don't do it by yourself because you're not going to get a fully honest disclosure if you do it that way. You do it with trained help. Okay, so let's talk about first, for betrayed partners, what is our outcome? So I always want to think about, like, what is it we're trying to accomplish, right? What's the outcome we want to see happen the day of disclosure for a betrayed partner? So what we want to see happen on the day of disclosure for a betrayed partner, my goal for my clients that I'm working with is I want them to be able to come to that day and feel resourced. I want them to feel like they know what's going to happen. They have tools to help themselves stay grounded. They aren't in terror of it, right? They may have some anxiety, they may have some fear, but they're not in terror of it. And they have the ability to stay present. So I want them to feel resourced, and I want them to be able to stay present through the entire disclosure. So I don't want them to be so anxious or so afraid that they're partway through, they've heard a little bit of the reading of the document, because in disclosure, your partner is reading you a document that they've written, and they're so overwhelmed, they like go up and out of their body, and they're not even there, and then they don't remember anything later. They don't remember what happened. They don't remember what they heard. That is not the goal, okay? So the goal is for you to be able to stay present and grounded throughout the disclosure process, throughout the reading of the document and the processing of the document and all the things that happen in disclosure, okay? So that's our outcome. That's what we want. So then the goal is, okay, if that's our outcome, then we've got to think about what's going to help us achieve that. What's going to help us get that outcome? So here are some things that need to happen for betrayed partners. So number one, you're going to want to work with your therapist to really think about, how am I going to stay grounded during this event if I start to become overwhelmed and my body, remember, activation is in your body, it's not in your mind, it's in your body, and my body becomes so activated that I feel overwhelmed and I feel like I can't stay present and I feel like I can't track information. When our body gets really overwhelmed and activated, our thinking brain goes offline, right? We're not able to process information. We're not able to think about things, take information in, make meaning of it. That part of our brain gets compromised. So part of what we want is for you to be able to stay grounded during disclosure so that the thinking part of your brain can stay online and you can be able to take in the information and process it really well. So your therapist is going to give you different tools for this, right? So hopefully they're going to practice deep breathing with you. They're going to teach you how to breathe to calm your body. They're going to breathe with you. There's different formats of deep breathing. Some therapists prefer different things. Many of them work, so it doesn't really matter which one, right? But some form of deep breathing that calms your body down and brings you back to yourself, right? A breath in is activating. It activates our nervous system. A breath out activates our parasympathetic, which is it's our rest, the part of us that calms us down. So something where you're breathing in through the nose and then out through the mouth, right? Some form of deep breathing to bring your body back to a more relaxed state. Another tool that your therapist can work with you on is to help you have ways of grounding yourself in the room that you're in. So I often will have clients pick a place in the room. So they might pick like something, I always have shelves behind me, like somewhat like I have here, but they might pick something on the shelf that they're going to look at. They might pick a picture on the wall that they're going to look at, but something that when they look at it, they look at the details of it, they think about the shape of it, they think about the colors of it, and as they're focusing on it, it's sort of a signal to them that, okay, I'm here in the room, I'm present, I can see this, I can see its shape, I can see its color, and that's another grounding technique. And I have them practice that. So I have us practice looking at the grounding points, thinking about what it means, calming our body down. I'm thinking about a client who one time, I used to, at my old office, I had this huge old hutch in the corner of my office. It was big. And she was like, okay, I'm going to look at the hutch. That's my grounding point. And I was like, okay, so let's practice this. Let's do this. So we were walking through it and she was like, no, actually I have to do something different because I want to crawl inside it. So she had kind of been drawn to that because of her fear of disclosure. And then as she was looking at it, she was like, I want to get inside it and hide. And I was like, okay, so that's excellent to know, because now during disclosure, if I see your eyes drifting over there, that tells me that you're getting overwhelmed. So I'm going to be watching your eyeballs. I'm going to be seeing what's happening. And if I see you looking over there, I'm going to know that you're starting to get overwhelmed and you want to hide. Let's pick a grounding point on this side of the room to help you stay grounded, right? So other techniques would be things like helping you look around the room and name the objects in the room. Another option would be helping you use all your 5 senses. So name 3 things that you see, 3 things that you hear, 3 things that you smell, like using all your 5 senses to be in your present. All of these are about giving your brain something to do that brings you into your present moment and helps your brain come out of the activation, right? Helps it settle. So your therapist will have, those are just like a couple options. There's many. So your therapist can work with you on this, but you want to have tools to help regulate your body so that you don't start to feel overwhelmed. Your body doesn't start to feel overwhelmed the day of disclosure. So another tool that you want before the day of disclosure is you want to think about some perspective, right? So I always want to give clients a perspective on disclosure that might be a little different than what they are bringing to it. So I think that for a lot of betrayed partners, part of the fear is that disclosure will feel like discovery. So when we discovered the betrayal, for most betrayed partners, when they discovered the betrayal, it blindsided them, right? Came out of nowhere, knocked them flat. I mean, it was like probably one of the most traumatic experiences that they've ever had. And part of what makes it so traumatic is how incredibly blindsiding it is and surprising it is. So what I want my betrayed partners that I'm working with to know is that disclosure is not discovery. So disclosure, you're not going to get blindsided in disclosure. So you might hear new information. You might hear new information that is surprising. You might hear new information that is hard to hear, that is painful, and that is difficult. That all might happen. But the difference between disclosure and discovery is that you are there under your own willpower, right? You have made a choice to come and hear this disclosure. You have made a choice that you want to be here and you want to understand what has happened in your relationship. And you know that you are going to hear new information. You're aware of that. You're aware that there's going to be things in this process that you don't know that you're going to learn. So that's a very different experience than I have no idea. I'm sailing along through life. I'm thinking things are fine, and then boom, I get hit with this major discovery. So I think it's really important to keep that in mind and to understand that that experience of showing up, making a choice, knowing what's going to happen helps the traumatic impact be much lower. So disclosure can still be painful and it can still be challenging and difficult, but it is not going to be blindsiding the way that discovery was. And I think that's really important to understand as a betrayed partner as you go into it. Here's some more perspective for you. Other perspective pieces that I want to do with my betrayed partners is in the weeks leading up, right? Usually the cheating partner's got takes time for them to write the disclosure. So there's weeks leading up to it, right? So part of what I want to do with my betrayed partners during that period of time is I really want to work with them on processing what they do know. I think that when you spend time getting your head around what you already have found out, processing what it means for you, working through some of the pain about it, working through some of the anger about it, working through some of the fear about it, when you spend time doing that with what you already do know, it actually resources you. So you are actually building some resilience and some resources inside of you to handle things that maybe you've never had to handle before. And as you're doing that work of really processing and getting your head around what you do know, it changes things. It's sort of changing you inside. And that helps prepare you for learning more information at disclosure. You've sort of got this okay, I was able to process this. I was able to work through a bunch of it. I've got a better understanding. I've been able to depersonalize it some in terms of, even though I know that it's a very personal event that has happened, I have been betrayed personally, I also know that the choice to betray the sexual agreements doesn't have anything to do with me. It's not about me, right? So I've done some work separating that out. I've done some work processing my feelings. I've done some work around managing triggers and trauma symptoms. So I've been doing all of that work, and now I have some tools and I have some resilience built inside of me that I'm bringing to disclosure. So that's another perspective piece, but that's another piece of the work that needs to happen to prep you for disclosure, okay? All right, so we've got our preparation, our perspective, we've got some grounding tools. Then I want you to really think about what you're going to wear that day, okay? This may seem like a weird thing to have in the list, but it's actually really important. So I have had partners do a host of things. I have had people go to Walmart and buy a crappy outfit that they're never going to wear again because they don't want anything in their wardrobe to remind them of disclosure again. They just want to wear some cheap Walmart outfit and then toss it in the trash. I've had other clients wear really, really comfortable clothes and bring a blanket so that they can feel really contained and cozy and warm during disclosure. I had a client who wore a puffy vest. I thought this was so creative. She wore a puffy vest. It was winter, so this wouldn't work in the summer. She wore a puffy vest over her top because she wanted to feel like that puffy vest was her boundary. It represented her boundary, that the information that she was hearing was not about her. And it protected her heart. So she wore it to protect her heart as part of disclosure. So you want to think about that in terms of, what am I going to wear? What's going to help me be comfortable? What's going to help me feel protected? What do I not want to have associated with this? If it is a painful event for me and a painful day, maybe I don't want to wear my favorite thing because I'll associate that. Partners often associate things with dates and times. So you want to just think that through. The other thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have layers with you. So when we take in new information that's surprising or that's challenging, our body can respond by going into a little bit of shock, or it can get cold, our temperature can drop. So you want to have something that you can put on if you start to get chilly and if your temperature starts to drop and your body starts to get cold, to warm you back up, right? To help kind of bring your body back into a state of warmth and feeling kind of held by either a blanket or a really cozy sweater, something like that. So you want to have something with you that can help you with that in terms of what you're wearing, okay? All right, so then you also want to go into disclosure with what I call a protective listening boundary. So your protective listening boundary is about how am I going to take in the information that I receive in disclosure. So it's really important to remember that we get to choose the meaning that we give to things, right? We give meaning to information all day long, right? We're taking info in and we're giving it certain meaning. And whatever meaning we give it, we then have a bunch of feelings about whatever meaning we've given something, right? So the meaning that you are going to give to what you are hearing in disclosure is going to have a lot to do with how it impacts you. So what I like to do is I like to have clients practice a protective listening boundary that is a way of thinking about what they're hearing and giving it meaning that doesn't make it about them and doesn't allow the information to attach to their sense of self. Okay? So here's the listening boundary. I'm going to read it to you, okay? The protective listening boundary is, this information is not about me. It is not a referendum on my value, desirability, beauty, lovability, or worth. While it is a betrayal of me and my trust and feels deeply personal, it is not about me or my value or self-worth. Okay, that's the beginning of the listening boundary, right? So what we're basically doing here is saying what I'm hearing here is not about me. It hurts me. It's deeply personal. It's a betrayal of my trust. It's a betrayal of our agreements. But it is not a referendum on my value, my lovability, my worth, my desirability, my beauty. It's not a referendum on me. So this is something that you're going to want to practice, right? I have my clients practicing this listening boundary, mantraing it, journaling about what it means to them, thinking it through. Like, this is not just a mental exercise. We got to put this in, we got to embed this inside ourselves, right? So I want everybody sort of walking around this a whole bunch beforehand and really getting to the point where it's like, I believe this. I believe this, and this boundary is protective for me. Here's the second part of the boundary. The information that I am hearing in disclosure, so the information that my partner is sharing with me, is not about my partner's value, desirability, lovability, or worth, right? It's a hard one, right? So I'm going to separate their actions from who they are. So I am hearing about their behavior, but it is not about my partner's value or worthiness. This information is about how sick my partner has been and where their addiction has taken them. So if you are dealing with a partner who's a sex addict and you're hearing a whole litany of behaviors that have happened in the sex addiction, part of this protective boundary is to say, the information is not about their lovability and worthiness. This information is about how far down the road their addiction has taken them and how sick they have been as they have dealt with the disease of addiction, of their sex addiction. If you are dealing with somebody like a partner who's had an isolated affair or has had multiple, affairs, but it's not compulsive, it's not an addiction, then you want to say, this information is about choices my partner has made to handle their own inner world. And it is not in any way about me, okay? So this is information that is not about my partner's worthiness, and it is information about where the disease of addiction has taken them or choices that they have made to handle their own inner world and what they have done with their own inner world. So again, you're going to practice both parts of this listening boundary until you can really take it in. But what this does is it protects you. That's why we call it a protective listening boundary. it puts up this way of hearing the information and not having it come in and feel like what I'm really being told is that I'm unworthy, I'm rejected, I'm undesirable, right? Where you're giving it all this meaning that connects it to you. This is a way of putting a boundary in place where you don't let that happen, and where you're able to hear the information and take it in, and you're going to have your feelings about it, because you're going to have lots of feelings about the fact that your trust was betrayed, you were lied to, you were the agreements were broken. You're going to have a lot of feelings about that. But when our feelings about that are separate from connecting to ourself, right? When we feel sadness and anger and pain about being cheated on, about being lied to, about the betrayal, but we don't make it about us, right? Our lovability, our worthiness, our desirability, it actually feels very different. And for lack of a better word, it's much cleaner, right? It's a much cleaner form of pain and anger than when it comes in and crashes in on us and becomes attached to us. That is when it starts to feel almost unbearable, right? So we want some boundaries to be able to work with that. And every betrayed partner has to learn how to do this, because at the beginning, betrayal always crashes in and attaches to your sense of self. That's normal. So I want you to hear me say it's normal for that to happen, but we do want to work with it and try to begin to put some boundaries in place so we can not be in the sort of unbearable pain that creates and all the feelings it creates about who we are. We want to give ourselves some protection from that, okay? All right, so that's your protective listening boundary that you're going to work on to prepare for the day of disclosure. Then the last thing I want to talk to you about is, well, actually I have two things to talk to you about. So one is what's going to happen the day of during disclosure. So when you are receiving disclosure, you're having a document read to you. And I always say to my clients, we are not writing a Russian length novel here, right? We are writing something concise and to the point, because it's very hard to have a lengthy document read to you and process it, right? You're not even reading it yourself. You're hearing it auditorily, like you're listening to something be read. So that's a little harder to take in the information and to process it. So we want a disclosure document that covers everything that needs covered, but we're also trying to keep it at a reasonable length to be read. When it comes to the day when you're there and you're having this read to you, what you want is to be really aware that you need to take breaks during the reading. So the way that we do it at the center is, we kind of do all the prep beforehand, we get everybody comfortable and we're ready to start. And then we'll have the person who's disclosing, the disclosing partner, read. We'll have them read 2-3 paragraphs, and then we'll pause and we'll just say, okay, how's everybody doing? Give everybody a minute to, let's just process let's just take in what we just heard. Let's just give you a minute to kind of think about what you just heard. Everybody take a couple breaths. Betrayed partner, do you feel ready to hear some more? Okay. And then we say, okay, let's hear some more. And then they read another half page, 3/4 of a page. And then we take another pause, okay? The reason that we're pausing is so that the betrayed partner's brain can catch up, right? Because they are trying to hear this information and track it and emotionally process it, because it's obviously going to be bringing up a lot of feelings. So we're doing it in small chunks to be able to provide ability for the partner to kind of catch up, process what they're hearing, have their feelings come up about it, take some breathing, stay grounded, and then go on and read the next part. We're also pausing because I'm checking in. I want to make sure, how you doing? Are you still here? Do you feel grounded? Do we need to do any breathing? Do we need to do any grounding behavior to help you kind of stay present? Are you having a lot of emotion about what you're hearing? So anytime I see, and I kind of know what's coming because I always have seen the document ahead of time, I kind of know when the big things are coming that are going to bring up a lot of feelings for the betrayed partner. So we kind of read through one of those things, and then we're going to pause and give some space for the betrayed partner to have their feelings about it, right? And they may have a lot of feelings. So we always have the option available for the disclosing partner and their therapist to go off into another room. On Zoom, you can do breakout rooms for this, right? To go off into another room. And then I and the betrayed partner, we can just kind of sit there and process what's coming up for them around this really big piece of information they just got. And they can have some tears about it. They can have some anger about it. They can process it a little bit. And then once it's sort of like settled down enough for them to resume, it's not going to all the way settle down, of course, right? Because it's big stuff, right? But enough for them to resume, then we'll invite the disclosing partner and their therapist back, and we'll continue reading the document. So you want to make sure that there's plenty of time for this. There's no rush, right? And the goal, again, is to get through it while being able to stay present and really hear it and make room for what's coming up inside of you as you're hearing it. So I'm really, really against the process of having people just read the document straight through. I think it is a disservice to everybody. And I think that most of the time, if that happens, I think when that happens, betrayed partners often don't remember all of it. They don't remember what they heard. They can't track it all. Somewhere they heard something that started to flood their body, and then they were gone and they missed the rest of it, right? So I really want the process to take time, for there to be breaks. And again, remember our outcome. Our outcome is for you to be able to stay regulated and present through the process of hearing the disclosure read to you. All right, so here is the last thing. The last thing is that to prep for the day of disclosure, you want to have a self-care plan, a before, during, and after self-care plan. So you want to really think about, like, what am I going to do the day before? How am I going to make sure that I have a really good sleep? Maybe I'm going to meet with my sponsor, or I'm going to meet with one of my good friends. I'm going to make sure I'm rested. I've got a plan for the kids to be taken care of. Like, somebody's got the kids all day long the day of disclosure. I'm taking off work the day of disclosure. Like, I am clearing the decks so I can take care of myself that day. I'm getting a good night's sleep the night before. I'm waking up. I am eating something. Make sure you eat something, okay? Don't go into disclosure on an empty stomach, because your blood sugar will not be on your side, and that will make it harder for you to regulate yourself. So eat something that can help your body kind of stay at an even keel, because that way your body will be supporting your regulation, and you're trying to stay regulated to help support that, right? So I'm going to eat something nutritious that will help me. I'm going to do some meditating. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to do whatever it is that sort of brings you into a grounded, solid state of connection with yourself before you go to the disclosure. So you want to have a plan for beforehand. We've already talked about during and all the things to help you with that. And then you want to have a plan for after. So you want to think about, maybe afterward, I'm going to meet with my sponsor, or I'm going to meet with one of my recovery friends. And you want to think about being with a friend, somebody, if you can be with them in person, it's always going to be better. Someone, because a calm nervous system will help regulate your nervous system. Pick somebody who's calm. Pick somebody who is not going to be anxious or activated or angry about whatever you heard, but who can really, truly just support you and be there to help and support you, okay? So think about, I'm going to have lunch with somebody. I'm going to get together with somebody. I'm going to talk it through. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go do some things that I know will comfort me and that will help me. I'm going to have a plan for going to a hotel if I need some time and space away from my partner afterward, if you're still living in the same house. I've got a therapy appointment set up the next day so that I can go in and process what I've heard with my therapist. So you've got a plan for afterward, because after disclosure is over, that's when the processing of all the information really begins. So you want to make sure you have a lot of support in place to help you over the days and hours following disclosure and the reading of the disclosure document. Okay? All right, so that is an overview of what will help you feel prepared as a betrayed partner for the day where you receive disclosure. I hope it's helpful for you. You take it in and work with all these different things with your therapist. And again, what we want is for you to go into that day feeling resourced, feeling like you have the tools to stay present, and you have the tools to help regulate yourself and keep yourself grounded throughout the experience. And then that you have the support that you need in place already in place for you as you begin to process what you've heard. All right? I hope that helps, and I will see you next time.